Hey, welcome back to the Lancaster Farming Podcast. It's me, Eric Herlock, digital editor at Lancaster Farming, and we're going to continue talking about industrial hemp. Something that a few of our guests have mentioned over the course of these interviews is the automobile manufacturers. You know, sort of like how if they could have a steady supply of hemp, they'd be building cars out of it. Or how the Germans are already building cars out of hemp. Or how about Henry Ford, who apparently built a car out of hemp in the 1940s. So, I don't know, there's something there, and I have an idea. I'm not sure where it's going to lead, but we're going to follow it. So, stay with me. We'll be right back. I almost have good news to share with you about a sponsor. We're about to have a sponsor. But if you would also like to be a sponsor, then send an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Thanks. Back to the show. Okay, so today I want to explore this idea about hemp and the automakers. So first we'll listen to more of my interview with Jeff Whaling. Remember him from episode 2? He's the chairman of the National Hemp Council. He thinks that southeastern Pennsylvania could be the epicenter of hemp production in Pennsylvania, possibly the United States. He's been working with government and business to help bring this crop back to the state successfully, sustainably, and profitably. So we'll pick up here with Jeff talking about the Ford Motor Company.
Companies like Ford. Ford would love to be able to revive Henry Ford's goal of building automobile parts with hemp and fueling automobiles with hemp ethanol. They're a large corporation that respond to shareholders. They're not going to invest their money into pilot programs when there isn't a supply chain. So it really is a chicken and egg issue. But once we resolve that and we can prove out what the supply chain is, I know because I get dozens of phone calls on a monthly basis from companies that say, can we do this and can we do that and how can you help us?
And the automobile manufacturers, they're interested in having a sustainable supply, but also is it like a weight thing? Like a car won't burn as much fuel if it weighs less?
Yeah, so every single European auto manufacturer uses hemp in one way or another in their production. It's also like most things in life, the luxury brands are the ones that are leading in the development of hemp products. So companies like BMW, Mercedes, Bentley, Volvo, Mercedes trucks are all using hemp in one way or another. For BMW, in 2014, they were really using hemp in their i3 and i8 series, which is their all-electric series. And as you so rightly said, they wanted to decontent those vehicles to make them as strong as they possibly could to meet all the international standards that's required of an automobile for crashes and for accidents, but also to make them as light as possible because obviously the lighter a car is that's all electric, the further it will go. Which makes it more appealing. The idea of the BMW i3 and i8 also is focused on their branding of sustainability. Since hemp can be grown in a field with no chemicals, no fertilizers, and is very beneficial to the air that we breathe and the soil that we grow in, that fits perfectly with BMW's model. The problem, however, for them was that there wasn't enough of a supply chain of hemp that they turned to other products, sustainable products that could help them achieve that goal. I currently know that BMW is producing a lot of door panels, soundproofing out of a non-woven hemp fabric out of Germany, but their cars are also produced in North America. So since there isn't a supply chain here, there's not a non-woven manufacturer here that they can get a supply from. They're actually shipping those components from Germany on a regular basis to meet the demand, which is very expensive, and they're looking for a solution here. And I think that we will probably see that once we start to build that supply, once we can prove and demonstrate that we can produce the equivalent of the products they're getting from Europe, that they will turn to an American supplier.
Let's say everything passes in the 2018 Farm Bill. What's the time frame until we have some kind of actual industry?
Well, it really depends on what your definition of an industry is. But my vision, I'm really looking at a 10 to 20 year process to really see this being a multi-billion, trillion-dollar industry. And if we are wise and move slow, if this gets signed by the president by the time the 2014 Farm Bill is to sunset, which is September 30th.
Wait a minute. Today is October 10th. So that means that the 2014 Farm Bill has expired, and the 2018 Farm Bill has not been signed into law. So that makes me realize that, industrial hemp in Pennsylvania and the United States is kind of in limbo. So I called Secretary Redding's office, and I'm waiting for a comment from them about this. But I also called Jeff Whaling to see what he had to say, and here's a bit of our conversation.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Jeff, how are you doing?
I'm okay.
Okay. So I'm curious your views on the Farm Bill limbo.
A little bit of a hiccup. I think that most people were hopeful that the Farm Bill would have been signed into law by September 30th, which is the end of the federal government's calendar year. It was not. The conference committee has been meeting diligently in trying to deal with some of the more pressing issues. It has not had any effect whatsoever on Hemp Farming Act language that's in it, but the pressing issues really are about entitlements that the Farm Bill covers, including the SNAP program. And there is a difference of opinion between the House Farm Bill that they passed and the Senate Farm Bill that they passed as to how to deal with the SNAP program, and that's really where the impasse is. And given that we are in somewhat of a divided government, I think that what's going to happen is that they will wait until after the midterms to see what the formation of the House and the Senate is, and then bring up the Farm Bill again in order to get it passed before the fiscal elements that are contained within the 2014 Farm Bill end, which is December 31st.
Okay.
And I think dairy subsidies and others really come into play at that point. There is enough funding in the 2014 Farm Bill that allows for funding to run through the end of this calendar.
Sure. Are farmers in any sort of legal jeopardy?
They're not. The 2014 Farm Bill provisions will remain intact. People who are growing hemp this year under a permit obviously will just need to conform to whatever the permitting is, particularly here in Pennsylvania, is to file their quarterly reports. In some cases, the state has issued 2- and 3-year permits. Those permits will still remain in effect. They may change once the new Farm Bill comes into law, but not only this year and moving into next year. I've spoken to the Secretary's office as recently as last week. They were waiting for the Farm Bill to see whether or not it was going to be signed into law. But since it is not, they are going to 2014 Farm Bill.
Oh, okay.
So I think we're all kind of good to go.
Yeah, okay. Just thought I'd ask. I appreciate your time. Okay, well, from Jeff's perspective, it seems like everything's going to be okay. Still waiting to get a comment from the Secretary of Agriculture. I will keep you posted on that. Oh, wait. Oh, look, here's a message from the Secretary of Agriculture, Russell Redding, right now. Let's give a listen.
Hello, this is Russell Redding. We are now in mid-October, approaching the end of the 2018 growing year for all crops to include industrial hemp. We find ourselves in a position now where the federal Farm Bill has not passed. We are hoping that there's still resolution to the Farm Bill and the hemp provisions, so it expands the authority. However, without the Farm Bill, we continue. We continue what we did in 2018. We'll continue to do the research program. We can be as aggressive with that as we have been. We can expand it if we want to, but we're not contingent on a new farm bill to allow a new hemp growing year in 2019. Thank you.
All right, and thank you, Secretary Redding. Well, when I was preparing for this show, I thought it was going to be all about the automobile industry, and I put some calls in to the big three automakers. I heard back from Fiat Chrysler, and I talked to a guy named Eric Main in their communications department, and they said they're just not in the space yet. But I did hear back from Ford Motor Company, and I'm working on scheduling an interview now with one of their scientists in the Sustainable Materials Division. So I'm very excited about that. And I've got a few other fun interviews coming up. I think we're only going to be following hemp for 3 or 4 more episodes. So now would be a great time to get in touch. Send us an email to podcast@lancasterfarming.com. Perhaps you have questions about hemp or you would like to be a guest. Anyway, we're brainstorming ideas for the next set of podcasts, and I think we're going to talk about the dairy industry. Okay, well, thank you for listening. I'm your host, Eric Herlock, and in the meantime, I'll see you in the newspaper.